Welcome to this week's virtual assembly. I'm Katie.
And I'm Jo,
and we're from Picture News.
So the first thing you need to do is run and grab either a pen or a pencil and a piece of paper or your workbook so you can record your ideas today. Now remember, as always, you can pause the video at any point so you can either have a bit more thinking time or to run and grab your equipment now. Off you go! So let's see what this week's picture is, Katie.
Okay.
Ooh, I think this looks quite exciting this week. So the first thing I'd like you to do is to jot down all the things that you can see in this week's picture. What can you see, Katie?
Is that in the middle a sheep or a llama maybe?
Ooh, so it's some kind of soft toy, isn't it? Some kind of animal there. I can see some dragons there as well, either side. What else can you see, Katie?
Are there some more toys maybe in the background?
I think so. And it looks like they're on some kind of stand, doesn't it? These dragons and that soft toy in the middle. Jot down anything else that you can see in this week's picture. Now we're going to move straight on to thinking about what questions we would like to ask about this week's picture. So, Katie, do you have any questions you would like to ask about this week's picture?
I would like to know, where is this happening?
Ooh, so whereabouts this is happening. I think I would like to know why there are only a few toys on that stand. I think if it was me, I'd want to see it full of them. So I would like to know why there are only a few toys on the stand. Can you think of any other questions you have and jot those down? And now we're going to move on to think about what this week's story could be all about. So we're going to use the clues that we have in this week's picture. So it looks like it might be a toy shop. It looks like there might be some toys there. So what could this week's story be about? Make a prediction and jot that down too. Can we find out, Katie?
Yes, let's find out. The toy world is in the grip of a llama obsession as the woolly South American animals become the new industry sensation. At the American International Toy Fair in New York in February, there were llamas everywhere, knitted, plush and sequined, small and large, llamas on mobile phone cases and swimming pool floats, llama diaries, puzzles and even backpacks.
So Katie, can we find out where the American International Toy Fair actually is? I heard in New York. I'd quite like to see where that is.
Yeah. This week's news story is from New York in the United States of America.
So now we're going to think about how this week's story makes you feel. So try and jot down one word to describe how it makes you feel. So Katie, what's your word for this week?
I find llamas in a new toy craze quite exciting.
So you're going to go for excited this week. So for me, I'm actually going to go for confused because I find it all a bit confusing, all these toy trends and things like that. And llamas? Why a llama? So I'm actually confused this week. So jot down your word. Now, let's see if we can find an even better word by looking at our emotion response grid. Now, it's definitely not going to make us jump this week, is it, Katie?
No.
Absolutely not. It did again. So let's have a little look at our emotion response grid and see if we can find our word and see if we can come up with an even better word, a higher level piece of vocabulary that we could use to describe how we were feeling. So Katie, let's find your words to start with.
Okay, excited. Yeah.
And could you come up with an even better word?
I'm going to go for animated.
Fantastic, I love that word. So you could use animated to describe how you feel about this week's story. So I felt confused. So I'm going to look for my word confused and I'm going to choose the word baffled this week to describe how I was feeling. Take a closer look at the emotion response grid and see if you can up-level your vocabulary for this week and find an even better word to describe how you were feeling.
Let's look at this week's question. What makes some toys more popular than others?
I wonder, Katie, if we have a look at some of the toys that have been popular in the past to see if that might help us answer this week's question.
The first toy we're going to look at is the Slinky, and this was around since the 1940s. The Slinky is a clever toy that can perform different tricks, including walking downstairs on its own. The Slinky was created in the early 1940s, but became a craze in 1995 after the first Toy Story film featuring the Slinky dog. Just under 1 million Slinky dogs were sold in 1995.
The next toy that we're going to look at are Beanie Babies. These are soft, cuddly toys and were very popular in the 90s, with many children collecting as many as they could fit on their beds.
The third one I'm going to look at is Pokemon cards. These were around in the early noughties. Based on the video game, the Pokemon collectible card game took over households and playgrounds alike, so people could try to collect the full set. Some cards were very rare and people were paying huge amounts on eBay to buy them.
So Katie, what was one of your favourite toys as a child?
One of my favourite toys that I remember was a Tamagotchi.
Ooh.
Do you remember Tamagotchis?
I do remember Tamagotchis. I didn't actually ever have one, but I do remember them.
So they were a virtual pet. And I remember I kept asking for a pet and I was never allowed one. And then I was given a Tamagotchi, which is a virtual pet, and all my friends had them, and you could feed them and play with them, and it was just in your hand. They were amazing.
So it sounds like if all of your friends had one too, that was a very popular toy.
They were, yes.
Yeah. So do you know, one of my favourite toys, Katie, when I was growing up, was actually something that was made for me.
Wow.
And my dad actually made me this little wooden tractor. And it didn't really look much like a tractor, but I absolutely loved it. Now, I can't imagine that was a very popular toy, because I'm not sure anyone else really had one quite like it, but it was definitely one of my favourite toys. So maybe our favourite toys aren't always the most popular ones?
No, not always.
But sometimes they might be. So let's go back to our question. What makes some toys more popular than others? So I guess being the most popular toy is the toy that most people like, a little bit like Katie's Tamagotchi. Lots of people had those and played with them. But it doesn't mean that it has to be your favourite toy. My homemade wooden tractor was not at all popular because nobody else really liked it except me, but it was still my favourite. Have a think about what your favourite toy is at the moment. Is it a popular toy?
So Jo, I have a question for you.
Excellent.
The Rubik's Cube is thought to be the most popular toy ever.
Wow.
Yeah, and it's been around since the 1970s. So my question is, how many altogether do you think have been sold?
Gosh, so it's a really popular toy, been around for quite a long time, since the 1970s. So I'm going to think it's going to be a big number. So I'm going to go for 10 million.
I actually think more.
Do you?
I do. It's been on a long time. So I think 50 million.
Oh my goodness me. Wow. Can we find out, Katie?
Yeah, let's find out. So the answer is 350 million Rubik's Cubes have been sold.
Wow, that is a huge number.
Now it's time for our reflection. Make yourself comfortable and close your eyes. Just like all of the amazing selection of toys around, we are all different and prefer different things to play with. The popularity of toys changes over time, but toys can always bring us fun times and joy.
Okay, favourite bit of the week, Katie, this week's challenges. So we've got 2 challenges for you to try this week. The first challenge is to think about your favourite toy and write a little description of it. So you could write down the name of the toy, you could describe it, what it looks like, what it feels like. You could explain how you play with that toy and tell us why you like it so much. Make sure you include a picture as well. Challenge 2 is to design and make your very own toy using resources and equipment that you have at home. So you need to think really carefully about what you could make. It might be a pencil puppet, or you could make a shoebox house, or you could even find an old sock and make a sock puppet. Hang on a second.
Jo?
Sorry, I'm back.
Hello!
Good luck with those challenges. Katie, which one do you think you'll do this week?
I'm going to write about my favourite toy, the Tamagotchi.
Excellent. I think I might turn that sock into a sock puppet and do challenge 2.
Now it's time to have a look at the discussion board and last week's big question, which was, are video games the next best thing to our real lives? So our favourite comment this week was from Oliver, age 7, who says, I think video games can be good if we can't get outside, but I do prefer to play other games like blocky and football in the garden. And we like this one because he's thinking about the alternatives to a video game, and he's talking about things that he enjoys that are outside things. So thank you very much, Oliver, for sharing your comment. We're just about at the end of this week's virtual assembly, so thank you so much for joining us. Just to finish off, we're just going to share all the different ways that you can connect with us, share your work and let us know how you're finding the virtual assemblies. So at the very top is our discussion board. So on there you can add your comments and your thoughts and responses to this week's big question. And so many of you doing that, so thank you so much. And next week yours might be the chosen comment that we read out.
You can also contact us by email or send us things in the post. We would love to hear your responses and your ideas, and I particularly would love to see some of you doing those challenges. And I think Kate has also mentioned the other way that we can contact people is through Facebook and Twitter, so please contact us that way because you can send us pictures and your thoughts there as well. We'll see you next week.